Hey parents, it's actually Tuesday night, but I'm recording this to kind of give you some Wednesday night class material since we can't meet together, and we've been doing our Parenting with Love and Logic class, and we ended last week with some topics that needed to be discussed. I thought we would try to do this through through video, and so we're gonna upload this tomorrow night, and and hopefully this will be something, something good. Uh, we'll put, I guess there's some places, maybe in the Facebook comments, or um, I don't know if we'll have comments turned on YouTube. But if you have questions, you can either go to my Facebook or whatever, and we can go from there. And so again, this won't be as interactive as class would have been, but I can pass on some information and maybe cover some of the topics. Um, uh, but I do want to start with a prayer. So let's do that together. Dear God, um, we thank you for today. We thank you for the blessings you give us, and while we can't be together, we can still support one another. And so through avenues like video, through sharing, through touching base with each other, help us to continue to do that while circumstances in our world are keeping us physically apart. Keep people safe. Keep people healthy. Be with the many people who are dealing with just the disruption that this has caused, and be with our kids through this time. Um, Help us to help them navigate. So again, we thank you for the blessing of our kids. Help us through this time as we learn. Thank you for Jesus. It's in His name we pray. Amen. So again, I guess one of the reasons we're not here is because of the disruption that the virus has caused, and so it got me thinking of a couple of topics and things that we deal with our kids. Because some of you guys are home with your kids, and you would have been home for spring break and having fun and doing a lot of things. And so with spring break going on, um, there's typically not a routine. Um, but Monday's coming, and the routine that you used to have is going to be totally different. And so, however school is going to look, however learning is going to look, uh, I would recommend um, having a schedule. Kids are always do better with structure, and let them know what the expectations are. And so, some of you are teachers, some of you are not teachers. Um, and so figure out ways. What is it? If your kids are older, have them work on a schedule. So say we're not sleeping until 10 o'clock and then getting up and doing our schoolwork. Okay, what is our schedule going to be? We're going to keep as normal as possible. Some of you are now working from home because you're not working at your place of business anymore, and so you've got to work while kids are running around. And so let's maybe address some of those things. So first of all, um, work on coming up with expectations. And here's what the expectation is. Discuss that with your kids. Here's the schedule. Maybe even make them part of it, even when they're young, kindergarten and whatever school age. Let them be part of the schedule. We talked about control. What are the choices? Okay, would you like to have math time here and PE here, or our outside time here? When would you like to do these things? Here they all are. How are we going to do those? I would definitely try to fit in some kind of recreation during the day, because your kids are going to need it, and they don't need to be sitting in front of the screen whenever they're not doing schoolwork, because some of their schoolwork may involve the screen. So when is getting outside time? And let's pray for better weather, so that it's not this rain and kind of cold, drizzly thing that's come back to us. So work on that with your kids. Plan ahead. You've got between now and Monday to work that process out. Um, again, but again, choices in that. Let's talk about other things that happen, maybe even during spring break when we can't go outside, when we can't do everything, when maybe our vacation plans got changed. We can't go to the movies, we can't go to the zoo, we can't go to the aquarium, we can't even go out to eat. All right. So how do we handle that? Remember our consultant hat. Kids are going to come to you and say, I'm bored. You know, despite the fact they have video games, they have puzzles, they have games, they have a closet full of action figures and blocks and toys. I'm bored. I'm bored. Remember to be the consultant parent. And what does a consultant parent do? First, they lock in the empathy. I'm bored. How sad. Second, they send the power message, because being bored is not my problem. Being bored is their problem. How sad, power message, what are you going to do about it? Again, that tells the kid, okay, now I've got to start thinking in my brain, how am I going to handle this? So there's the power message. Usually they're going to say, I don't know. Unless they say, well, I'll go play with my toys. Boom, problem solved. What are you going to do about it, though? I don't know. And that's where we get into consultant mode. The second thing is choices. Would you like to hear what some kids have tried? Remember, it's not what I would do as a consultant. Well, would you like to hear what other kids have done? Maybe it was you when you were a kid. How do other kids deal with boredom? And then you go back and forth. You offer the choice, and then you say, how will that work out? Well, some kids just sit in the room and twiddle your thumbs. How will that work out? Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, some kids will play on their video game with their brother or sister. How do you think that'll work out? Oh, I don't want to do that. Some kids will go out and they'll play on the trampoline. Or they'll play in the backyard. They'll run around with the dog. How do you think that'll work out? Well, I'm kind of tired. I don't want to do that. Well, some kids will play blocks in their room, put a puzzle together. How do you think that'll work out? I don't know. Okay, well, step 5, solve it or not. You let me know how that works out. And there we go. And so that's how you deal with the boredom. A couple other things to remember during this time. We're going to talk about it when we talk about fighting. But remember the energy drain. I mean, when the kids are getting on your nerves. What is it? You're draining my energy. And this is really sad. Because at some point, I won't have the energy to do whatever it is that you need me to do. So when they say, Mom, will you play this game with me? Will you do this? Oh, I really wish I could, but I don't have the energy. Maybe next time. Or I don't have the energy to do the things that I need you to do, but maybe you could do some of my chores to replace my energy. The energy I was going to do picking up dog poop or raking leaves or picking up the laundry. That's something that you could do instead, and that would give me some of my energy back. Then I can play with you. Then I can do some of the things that I can make you ice cream, or I can do whatever it is that you would like to do. So remember, those are some of the other things. Another great technique, make sure you don't forget. And I don't know if we've talked about this much in class, but when our kids are arguing with us, all right, that endless, but why, you know, they say, well, so-and-so does it, well, this isn't fair. Here's a great 2-word response for that. I know. Well, other kids are doing it. I know. You say it with an empathetic tone, and you shut down arguments. Well, that's not fair. I know. Well, I want to do this. I know. Well, so-and-so's doing this in the other room. I know. Well, he talked dirty. He said things first. I know. And so you're able to shut down whatever kind of argument they're having with you. You can also do something that's a little different than the I know, but you can say, I love you too much to argue. I love you too much to argue. A little empathetic tone going on. So those are some great things to remember, especially in these times where we are cooped up in the house and things are not normal, and there are a lot of different things going on. So feel free to use those love and logic tips as we move forward. So in class last week, I said, what are some of the other things you'd like to see addressed? And so I'm going to try to touch on some of those, and some of those especially are pertinent to even some of the times that we have now. With all this extra time in the house and extra time together and kind of disrupted schedules. One of them is someone wanted to talk about fighting. What about when our kids are fighting? Here's something Love and Logic teaches that fighting is not always bad. Even our little kids find ways to get back at our big kids. they need to learn how to get along, and they need to learn in some ways how to stand up for themselves. As long as they're not hurting each other, um, then fighting is not always bad. Where they fight is another story, because fighting is bad when I have to listen to it. So you can use things like, you guys can go and fight, but I don't want to hear it. Go in the other room and do it. You guys can fight as long as you're doing it outside. Then obviously you monitor to make sure it's not sticks and stones. Besides besides words that are being thrown at each other. Um, but ultimately, um, it's letting them take care of it and settle it away from you. Um, they can figure some of these things out. You can separate them. Fighting in the back seat. We spent some time talking about that's an energy drain, as I described before, and they can even be draining your energy in the house. What you don't want to do is try to talk reason to them while they're fighting, while they are upset. You can have conversations about fighting when everything has calmed down. Uh, Now, if you're a fighter, if mom and dad are fighting all the time, maybe you need to work on modeling better fighting behavior uh, when your kids are around. Um, I'll have you see Aaron for some marriage counseling on that one. Um, so make sure you're not fighting. But the other is just excuse me, modeling good behavior with them and discussing it at times when they're not upset. Because remember, when they're upset, they're not able to think. And so you are able to say, you know, when you fight, um, I feel this way. It really makes me sad when those things are going on. When I see that my kids don't get along. And you can have that conversation, but again, not when they are upset. When they are upset, get it to the other room. When they are upset, have the energy drain so it makes them think maybe I need to stop. Now, if fighting does become violent, that's when you definitely need to separate them. You need to have the bedroom time where there's different things going on. Um, there are times when if things are really violent and continue to be violent, that you may need to get professional help. But for most of what our kids do is more bickering and complaining, and he shed, or he did this, or he touched me, or he took my toy, or he did this. Um, you can deal with fairness later. Um, if they did take a toy, if one kid broke the toy, and they are upset about that, that's really sad, because you know what happens when you break something of somebody's? You've got to figure out how to replace it, or give them your toys that are of equal value to replace that. And so that's a consequence you can deal with, but again, you can't deal with it in the heat of that moment. And so hopefully that helps. I looked in the book about fighting. Um, you know, Here's some of the things you can talk about feelings as well. I can, especially when they're calm in that calm stage. I understand that you feel frustrated, but guess what? If I hit my boss every time I got frustrated at work, I wouldn't have a job, right? So I wouldn't be as happy if I handled or I wouldn't be as happy if I handled my frustration that way. So we want to identify with their feelings, because we talked about that empathy. I understand you're frustrated. I understand when your brother does this, it really makes you mad. Um, what are other ways we can handle it? And maybe we can model, if we're modeling things like walking away from arguments, if we're modeling empathy when someone wants to complain with us, our older kids might pick up on the I know, or isn't that sad, and they might be turning it in on little brother and sister. So we want to model these things. We want to work with them through all of these times. Um, Again, chores as energy burning replacement. That's one of the things in the fighting unit it really talks about. This is really sad. When you fight, it burns my energy. The only way to fill up my energy is to pick up dog poop. All right, and you can handle that. It's to do my chores. Hope that helps on fighting. If you have other questions, either put them in the comments, put them on the Facebook tab under here, and we'll address those either in a future video or hopefully a future class. If we're all together, more than likely a future video. But I definitely want to be able to talk about those things. So another person asked about lying, and that's an interesting one. You know, sometimes our kids, lying is a self-preservation thing, and so they start figuring out, okay, if I lie and I get away with it, I don't get in trouble. And so, if they're lying and we call them on it, okay, immediately they're going to, emotions are going to come and they're just going to dig in. And that's typically what happens, if we lie and we're called on it, we dig in and we either lie more or we make up more lies to support that lie, or we just, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Our kids are the same way, because there's that emotion going on. One of the best things you can do is, even if they say I'm telling the truth, say, you know what, if that's the truth and I don't believe you, then that's sad for both of us. But if it's a lie and I don't believe you, then it's doubly sad for you. Well, why is that? Well, first, the child's telling a lie, and second, he or she's around people who don't believe them. And so we say, you know what? You can just flat out say, I don't believe you. Right? There's nothing wrong with saying that. This is really sad, but I don't believe you. And even if they say, but, and they say, yeah, I know that's really sad, but I don't believe you. Now, if you saw it, call it. To do is so at that point, punish them for lying and the consequence. Just say, hey, this is the fact. I saw you. I've caught you. How are you going to make it right? I didn't punch him. I saw you punch him. How are you going to make it right? Here's another thing. We want to let our kids trust us. And we want, we want our kids to be able to come talk to us and tell us the truth, even when something is bad has happened, even when they messed up. We want them to be able to do that. In that sense, when they tell us the truth, we don't need to punish them for telling us the truth. Go back to some of the things that we talked about, especially as we punished them. I'm really glad you were honest with me, but this is really sad. This thing happened. And at that point, we let whatever consequence is that goes with that, do the teaching. Not, okay, well, you told me the truth and now you're grounded for 3 weeks. Okay. You let the consequence for whatever that thing was. And it might be grounded for 3 weeks. But again, we've discussed the difference between consequences and punishment. The consequence may be you don't get to do things with your friends for up to 3 weeks. But you're not punished for telling me the truth. You're consequenced because of whatever it was that was done. Hopefully you're able to tell the difference. So again, with the lying, this is really sad, but I don't believe you. So you got the empathy, so they can't get that up. And even if they say, but, this is really sad, but when you are telling the truth, and I don't believe you, then that's sad for both of us. So you can hopefully that helps the person that asked about the lying. Okay, next was bedtime, and I think it was staying in bed. I really like the comment that Clay made. We got him a weighted blanket, but obviously there's not enough weight on it because he's getting out of it in the night. First of all, we spent some time talking about prepping for bed and being ready to go to bed, using all of those choices to make them think that they have control, that they are going to bed. But I think the question was, Do you want to go to bed in an hour and 15 minutes? Do you want to have, brush your teeth at the sink or in the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink? Do you want to have a water from a bottle or water from a glass? When mine goes to bed, it's, do you want the light on? Do you want the light off? Do you want the door open? Do you want the door shut? Do you want me to give you one kiss or two kisses? Do you want me to give you one hug or two hugs? Do you want me to come look in on you or not look in on you? And so they answer all those questions. They're in control, all right? And so if they come out of bed and say, "Oh, I don't want to go to bed," well, you know what? You were in control. Now it's my time to cash in all of those decisions. Now it's my turn to say, yes, it's time for going to bed. Another way that Love and Logic handles bedtime, and this is kind of interesting because I deal with this. I do choices all the way up, and usually the kid is ready to go to bed at that time because they're tired of making all these decisions. That's tiring work. Sometimes instead of bedtime, sometimes Love and Logic has written, and they call it bedroom time. You don't have to go to bed. It's up to you when you go to bed. But I need time. So I've got to have time that's my time before I go to bed. And so you need to be out of here. That basically is what you say to the kid. But it's your bedroom time. All right? Do you want your bedroom time to be 8 or 8:30? And you can do whatever it is as long as you're in your bedroom. Now, you may want to, I would definitely say, now with electronics and with the internet and things like that, I would say, you don't want them on the phone, you don't want them chatting with other people, you don't want them talking on the phone, you don't want them even probably stimulating themselves with screens. But you can play, you can listen to music, you can do whatever in your bedroom. It's your time. And here's the beauty of it. They'll either get bored and they'll go to sleep, or maybe they'll stay up till 1 o'clock. Whose problem is that? That'll be their problem in the morning. Okay, and you can deal with that and work with other consequences in the morning, especially as they're an older kid. So they're not waking up. That's really sad. We talked about the marbles in the Band-Aid can in the freezer. But we also talked about, okay, well then they miss school because they didn't get up, and they have to face the consequences there. Or they have to have somebody drive them to school because they missed the bus. Whatever it is, they face those consequences of not waking up. If they're grumpy in the morning, whose problem is that? Shouldn't be our problem. We don't want them around us. And so, hey, this is really sad, but you need to go over here. So hopefully then they learn that lesson the next time, that when it's bedroom time, why don't we take advantage of that and go to bed at a decent hour. I hope you can see the differences there. I'm a big fan of the choices, though. But as they get older, you can just call it bedroom time. But again, I would caution you to not have screen time during bedroom time. We don't want our kids having access 24/7 to cell phones or computers or connection with people outside of the home. Again, that kind of becomes dangerous, and you don't want to have 24/7 contact with friends. So I think there's that going to bed piece of it. The second part, I think that was some of the question was, okay, well, what do we do when they get up in the middle of the night? We can't keep them in bed. Love and Logic, there's lots of different reasons they get up. And if they're just being ornery, you can work on that and say, you can't leave this room, and work on that. Sometimes kids are scared. Sometimes they have a big imagination. And you can do things like, if I'm scared or there's monsters under the bed, you don't have to reason with them because they have a big imagination. Monsters are real. Magic is real. So maybe deputize one of the teddy bears to keep the monsters away. Monsters won't come as long as this teddy bear is in bed with you. Great. Or if I put magic fairy dust on the corner of your pillow. So you can do some things like that if imagination is just going crazy with your kids. What you can do with your kids, and we did this with our younger ones, it was really, if going to bed was really how we wanted to have them mind us. Middle of the night, things happen, they get scared, whatever it is, we did let them come to our bedroom. Early on, it was, you can come in here as long as you don't wake us up and make it a problem for me. And so we let them sleep. We put a pallet on the floor, for them to be able to sleep. Later, they crawled in bed with us, but as long as it wasn't, they didn't wake us up, and it wasn't a problem for us, then I was fine with it. And so, the big thing is um, if they wake up in the middle of the night, not making it a problem for us. Um, and so, decide that for you. Now, if you're putting them to bed and 30 minutes later, while you and your wife are still watching TV, um, they're popping in and out and in and out and in and out. Again, maybe that's where you just say, this is bedroom time, and you've got to stay in your bedroom. You do whatever you want. Um, Now, if they say, I can't go to sleep, boom, let's go back to consulting mode. That's really sad. What are you going to do about it? Would you like to hear what other kids have tried? How do you think that'll work? And, with going to bed, it's, would you like to count sheep? Some kids read a book. Some kids, listen to the sound machine. We did sound machines with a couple of our kids. Um, that was great. Um, so hopefully that's some answers that will help you. If that was your problem with kids staying in bed, if it's not, say no, that's not my problem, and we'll try to address it in another way. Okay, I know it wasn't a 45-minute class. I know I dropped you from the stand. I had this onto the floor. I'm sorry about that. But again, hopefully this class has helped. I've enjoyed being there with you guys and thought maybe we'd share some of these topics with you. If there's more topics that you'd like to see, let me know, and we'll just keep talking about it, because it looks like we may be stuck in our houses for a while. So good luck, good parenting, and have a great evening. Bye.